Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. You're watching BQ Prime. I'm Harsh Saita. We continue to focus on the financial pack, which is in focus on the back of the RBI directive to hike risk weightage on unsecured loans as well as loans given to NBFCs by banks. This will, of course, have several phases of impact. One of them being your loan yields, your borrowing cost will rise. To break this down for us, we have with us today, among many other guests who we had through the morning, we have with us Suresh Khatanhar, who is the Deputy Managing Director at IDBI Bank. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Right. So, sir, let's just start right off. I believe that the impact on IDBI is fairly low, but quantify it for us. What is the kind of numbers that one should look at when it comes to IDBI? What is the kind of unsecured book that you have, and what is the kind of exposure you have to NBFCs?
So as far as IDBI is concerned, the exposure to the unsecured book is minuscule. It is about 700 crores rupees only. So obviously the impact was absolutely marginal or negligible. As far as the NBFCs are concerned, we have financed NBFCs which are backed by the securities. In the sense, they are the lending is made to the business or for the creation of the assets. So there also the significant impact will not be there. And the other lending which we have, some lending is there to MFI, which are exempted category from the risk weights.
Correct. So, sir, one clarification there, right? MFI has been excluded from the risk weightage with regard to consumer loans within the NBFC category. But within banks, they've not been highlighted as an exclusion. So, want to try and understand, is it fairly clear that MFI is excluded?
Yeah, I think the intent is clear because the priority sector is also kept out of this hike. So we believe that MFI is also excluded.
Right, but just for to understand the mix, what would NBFC and MFI mix be like if I were to look at that book combined? Of course, you did highlight unsecured is roughly 700 crore, which is minuscule.
Yeah, so MFI also is minuscule for us. It is just 300 crore. So we are not largely into the NBFCs as a sector as a whole. So our risk appetite on the sector has been quite low. So that is why the exposure are not high. Whatever we had, I said, these are either HFCs or you have MFIs or NBFCs where they have lent for the production purposes or for asset creation.
Right. And if I understand correctly, 70% of your book is retail. You've switched over in quite a large manner. 70% retail, 30% corporate. Please correct me if I'm wrong there. And
that's right.
So what is the kind of mix within retail? If we can try to break that down and explain that to us.
So the retail lending is largely constitution of the mortgage book. 93% of our retail lending is on the mortgage book, which constitute the home loans and the loan against properties, etc. And there also, the most of the 70% are the salaried class, and about 90% of the borrowers have a CIBIL score of more than 700. So that is also a very well risk mitigated control book. So this is how it is presently.
Right. And so clearly no risk on that count. But let me switch over. There were plenty of reports with regard to government LIC divesting from IDBI and that divestment now being pushed beyond FY24. Could you talk to us about what could the possible factors be? Of course, it's not your domain, but what could the possible factors be for this push by the government?
See, as I read from the newspapers also, because this whole process is handled by the DIPAM.
Correct.
The whole divestment process involves various processes, which is fit and proper criteria, then due diligence, and so on. So I think it's a lengthy process. That may be the reason it is getting delayed. But I think DIPAM is working on this.
Right. Do you therefore believe that FY25 will be the year when new investors, fresh investors come in and a fresh lease of life is given to the bank?
See, bank continues to do well. We are improving on all parameters quarter on quarter. And as far as the divestment, change in shareholding is concerned, that could happen in the coming financial year.
Right. And again, sorry, just to kind of complete the full circle, what's the kind of interest that we're seeing with regard to various investors? I'm sure that there must be some interaction that the management must be having with various investors. Of course, I won't ask you to name them, but what is the kind of interest and what are the key concerns that some of these investors have with regard to investing in IDBI? What are the top 2, 3, if you can highlight to us?
No, incidentally, the entire process is handled at the DIPAM and they have appointed transaction advisors. So all this discussion, whatever is happening, it is happening through the transaction advisor appointed by the government. So they are the equity holders presently and they are divesting. So I think at present management doesn't have much interaction on this and any information on this.
Right, but no concerns either, right? Transaction advisors would typically interact and try to express some concerns which investors might have or some questions which they may have, which may look like concerns. Anything on that count at all that you could throw light upon to try and help us break down that there are absolutely no concerns with regard to the divestment as such, is what I want to try to put forth.
Yes, as far as we are concerned, we have not come across any observation or any question which expresses the concern of any investor or potential investor. So as of now, we have no communication on that.
Right. And with regard to your current book, you, of course, your NPAs you've cleaned up your book completely. Your PCR is probably best in class. I've not seen a 99% kind of PCR anywhere, but if you can help us, so you're absolutely comfortable with regard to the book, because what I understand is 90% of your 70% mix of retail is within the mortgage housing fold, and therefore that is relatively probably the safest, and even otherwise you're well provided. So you feel fairly comfortable with regard to asset quality within the bank at the moment? Absolutely no concern. Is that how one should look at it?
Our confidence comes from the continuously improvement in even the SMA levels and reducing of the NPAs. As far as the new book creation on the corporate is concerned, our risk management policies are quite robust, and we are lending it to the only top rated customers on the corporate side. As far as retail is concerned, I just expressed 70% of the lending is to the retail, of which 93% is the mortgage based. So I think we have a robust mechanism of underwriting, strong risk management practices, and more importantly, we also have a dedicated vertical for collection and recovery, which helps to keep the delinquency at the lowest levels.
Understood, sir. Sir, it's been a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you so much for that perspective. That's IDBI Bank, of course, suggesting no concerns with regard to the new change or in the risk weightages given by the RBI yesterday. No concern for IDBI at all, because very small unsecured book, hardly any lending to NBFCs as well as MFI. So clearly no concerns there. But one important clarification that's come through from their side is that there is a viewpoint that MFI will likely be excluded or will be part of the exclusions for risk weightages, increased risk weightages by the RBI yesterday, even for banks. That is their viewpoint. That's one key piece. But other than that, no concerns there. The divestment set to continue when, of course, DIPAM will decide, but post FY24.